So what are the main challenges to schools with GDPR? I suppose we have to accept that in the first place it's becoming compliant with GDPR. Overall, it's a fairly big process. We need to start it as soon as we can. It means making sure we've got our policies and processes in place, making sure our staff are aware. That's our senior leadership team, our governors, all of our staff, not just our teaching staff, all of our staff. They all need to be aware of GDPR and what it means to them. They need to be, most importantly, aware of their own data protection responsibilities around the data that they have access to or that they use within their role. It's not a simple thing. Staff often think of data protection as just another manual handling course where they don't need to be taught how to pick up boxes. Well, it's not that. This is very important. The consequences of failing to comply with GDPR can be significant to the school. Loss of confidence in the school, bad publicity, etc. because of the enforcements from the ICO. We need all of our staff to become on board with this. They need to take it seriously. We do need to make sure we've got staff training in place. That's got to be regular and relevant to GDPR. So there's a lot of things that we need to get in place just to get ourselves compliant in the first place. I suppose the second thing is getting all our staff trained. We need to find ways of getting training either from free resources, buying in resources, or doing training ourselves on inset days. But you do have to record this and evidence the fact that you have this staff trained and regularly trained. So it needs to be in there. Next thing that's going to be a challenge to schools will be the subject access requests. We fully expect to see a lot more of these coming through, and somebody is going to have to be able to comply with those and deal with them. You've got 1 month to comply, so make sure you've got a process in place. Make sure somebody knows it's their responsibility to ensure these happen, and do a test run. Do a test run before May 25th. If there's going to be a problem, much better that you find out you have a problem and can't comply this side of the compliance date rather than after the enforcement date, and the first thing that goes wrong is that you get a subject access request and can't actually deliver it. So choose a student at random and then do a subject access request. See if you can actually collect all the data and get it into a sensible format inside 1 month. If you can, it looks like your policies and your processes for the subject access requests are in the right place. Next thing is your data mapping. Make sure you start doing that as soon as you can. They are time consuming. They're not complex, they are time consuming. Make sure you have input from 3 or 4 different members of staff from across the school, IT, admin, senior leadership, teaching staff, etc., so that everybody's view is taken into account. Make sure you don't miss anybody. Don't miss the small suppliers. Don't forget the really big suppliers, the pensions and the healthcare people and the payroll. They all have to be compliant as well. So make sure you've got everything mapped out and you can check that you don't have any potential risks that you've not covered. And then, of course, the data protection officer. You've got to get a data protection officer. You can share that data protection officer with other schools or buy in externally, whichever you're going to do. But you need them in place by May 25th latest. But far better to have your data protection officer in place as soon as possible. The role of the data protection officer initially is to advise you on compliance and how to become compliant. Well, let's get them in as early as we can and use their expertise to help you in your compliance journey. And don't forget, it is a compliance journey. We're in a much better position in schools than most other organisations. We're used to data protection. We follow the Data Protection Act and have done for years. We follow safeguarding. We're very good at this stuff. You'll already have most of these things in place. All it'll be is reviewing them, making sure they comply with the new standards. If you like, it's a chance to take a fresh look at things and make sure we actually are doing all the things we say we're doing under the Data Protection Act. Good luck. It's not as bad as you think.